I'm Anthony Fio, and you're listening to the Talk Carby to Me podcast. All right, yeah, we're live now. So we were talking about like the acoustics of your little area. So as you can see, like this looks like a full gaming room behind me.
Well,
Um,
it sounds good. Whatever you have going on with the headset and microphone, it sounds great.
yeah, so I have a pretty legit computer setup. I was actually going to get into video game streaming at one point. I've played a lot of time, put a
Mhm.
lot of time and dedication into Madden, and
Nice.
there were a few years where I was ranked in the top 1% of player base on both Xbox and PC. So I ended up getting all this equipment, and at the time, my partner was, video game streaming. So I was like, oh, I should probably have all this stuff if I have a pretty legit computer. I never got into it, but turns out it was actually pretty resourceful once I got to, you know, into my, craft now. And I'm like, hey, it'd be cool if we had a podcast that highlighted health and fitness stuff. And voila, I already had, almost the whole studio.
I love it. Well, I'm glad that paid off for you. I can't tell you I have much relation to the video game streaming side or just video gaming in general. It was something we never really did growing up. So I missed that boat. I used to go to my friends' houses to play like games when I was like N64 and I was in high school and stuff, but it was never something I really did too much of.
Yeah, I think it's very like 50-50. Like either you had a Super Nintendo and you were rocking out with it and then it just stuck from there, or you just missed it entirely and you went on to have a full adult life and be happy.
I don't know. I think there's something to esports and gaming and understanding computer systems now. It's the future, and I feel like some of these kids have a leg up. It's interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like, the funny thing is when you look at some of the pro tournaments in video gaming, the kids are the ones that are like dominating.
Yeah,
And like we see athletes in sports, and we'll obviously touch on athletes in this episode, but you see athletes in sports and you got like your elite athletes are starting to taper off around like 37. So if you look at the esports community as like like an athletic population in terms of their what they do, they start to fall off around like 24. And when you
interesting.
see, yeah, when you see like the hand-eye coordination, so like popular streamers who are just making content, okay, whatever, like they're popular, they people listen to them, they watch them, they're entertaining. But you definitely see a shift in like the pro circuit where like it's younger and younger because the hand-eye coordination diminishes a lot faster as you age.
That's interesting. It's I don't know if you read the books like Ready Player One or Ender's Game, but
Yeah,
you're giving me vibes of both of those.
dude, you know how close we are to Ready Player One,
Yeah, I know
dude.
exactly.
We are so Apple just unveiled their Vision Pro for the obnoxious price of $3,500. Fortunately, Apple's arguably the greatest company of all time, so they can get away with it. But it like if you were to be wearing that right now, we both had one on this call. We look exactly like the cover for the promo for Ready Player One.
That's actually so true. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, crazy. Things are changing fast.
yeah. So we're here with another edition of the Talk Carbon Movie podcast today. I have my friend Matt with me. He is the owner of iCryo in the Triangle area here in North Carolina. He's going to shed some light on what they do. We're going to talk a little bit about cryotherapy, its benefits, and also he's got some other cool things going on at his facility for a wide range of things. And I think probably the niche, if we were to put you guys there, would be a big focus on recovery
Hmm.
with what you guys
Yeah.
do and what you guys bring to the table. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, excited to get to chat with you in depth about, I mean, anything you'd like, but health and wellness, those are some of my favorite topics. It's been a huge part of my life since I was a kid, and obviously now as a professional, it's where I'm really focused. So I'm excited to dive in with you.
Yeah, for sure. So little do you know, this was just a trap. We're just gonna talk about New Haven pizza the whole time.
Yes, yeah. You know what? That's fine by me.
Dude, it was like I still haven't found a place that's like just that matches the quality, man.
You can't. And when El Prez from Barstool Sports is going around across the world and still saying New Haven has the best pizza, I mean, I think it's a pretty strong sign.
Yeah, what a strong indictment that
Yeah.
this man has been to like almost every pizza place in probably New York City and probably Boston and a lot of the major cities, Chicago as well. Yet, like the top, like three of the top 10, you got New Haven, West Haven, and there's another Connecticut town that's in there as well, which is wild.
Yeah, insane. I always forget you're a Connecticut guy, or at least spent some time in Connecticut,
Yeah.
and you can imagine my last name's Pepe. Pepe's Pizza is always on that kind of top five list, and I would get asked all. No, I'm not related to them, but I would get asked all the time if I was related to Pepe's Pizza. And I mean, I've been on cruises, I've been in California, I've been in Florida, and people will see my last name for whatever reason, and I'll hear that question anywhere. Oh, you're related to Pepe's Pizza in New Haven? Like,
That's awesome. I would have played I might play that card on a cruise.
yeah, yeah,
Like there's very shaky internet access. No one's really gonna be able to find out the
right.
answer. When they do, it's too late. So like, yeah, it's definitely me. That's awesome. So talking about like health and fitness and stuff like that, kind of how'd you get started in that, and like how'd you end up to kind of where you are now?
Yeah, like I said, health and fitness always been a part of my lifestyle growing up. My father was an entrepreneur. He owned fitness centers. He owned gyms. So I literally grew up in a gym in a sense. We spent our spare time there. I remember Saturday mornings when I was like 6 years old. My dad would take us to the gym with him, and back then there was really no rules on some of the old school meathead gyms. They're not like they are today, but in the early '80s and mid '80s, it was a little more relaxed. And that was what we did for fun. So we'd go to the gym with my dad, or we'd go down to the track and we'd play sports, or we'd run the track with him. And obviously that got me into sports at a very young age. I was always an athlete from the moment I could hold the ball, kick a ball. So that was just very ingrained sort of in my childhood. And I have two brothers. So again, I had teammates right
Oh,
off the bat. I had teammates
yeah,
to play with. So
that'll do it. Good for you. My teammates. I'm an only child. My teammates were a rundown basketball hoop, which I loved, and the garage door was a
I was
great
gonna
friend
say,
to
yeah,
me.
it's something to throw a ball off of. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
so so that kind of got me obviously very interested in the athletic side of things. And I was never going to be a Division 1 athlete or professional athlete. I thought I would, but those dreams, I think the writing was on the wall when I was in high school. But it got me into thinking about being on the athletic training side. I was like, how can I find a way to stay around sports and athletes because I love it so much, and I do want to learn more about how does the human body work? How could I maximize my performance? How could I take care of this thing that we have? It's as far as I'm concerned, it's the most important tool that we're all born with, and it's one of the things that we're least educated about as a general population. That's something we could definitely dive into.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure. That concept itself, as a trainer, a nutrition coach myself, it's a wild world, and it's crazy what you're touching on. It's kind of like we're all of us are like a consciousness inside of a vehicle, like I like to think of my vehicle as a Lamborghini, right? And if I had a brand new spanking new Lamborghini, and suddenly we're moving around like a 1984 Toyota or something like that, might be time to check some things out as opposed to just like, oh, this is what I am now. So
oh yeah, it's
um,
time for a tune-up.
oh yeah, for sure. Like if you got something nice, which the body's a temple, it's definitely that. It's a mechanical wonder, really. You should definitely keep it, as close to tip
100%.
top as you would, same as you would with your house, same as you would with your car. Anything really that you value that you have to utilize to kind of interact with the world.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a great way to look at it. And I think I had the very beginning of that concept when I was looking at colleges and looking at what I wanted to study. And actually, if I talk too long, you can cut me off at any time. But I started school as a major in business, and the reason was I saw my dad as an entrepreneur, saw my dad as a businessman, and I knew I could use that to get into something on the health side as he did. So I started studying that, and I just lost interest. It just wasn't what I wanted to take in as information at 18, 19 years old. So I switched over to health sciences, and I graduated with a health science degree, and then I went back to school. I got a master's degree in sports medicine and became an athletic trainer. So I spent the next 6 years of college studying how the body works, how to take care of it, how to train, nutrition, how to treat injuries. Obviously, on the athletic training side, we do focus a lot on that, and rehabilitation of injuries, which actually, believe it or not, comes really in hand for the average person too. And
Very true.
what was really interesting was I just said how much I wanted to learn all that, and I went through 6 years of school. And 6 months into working as an athletic trainer, I was like, I can't do this. I do not like being a trainer. And I love everything I learned. I love that I now know how to take care of myself, and I think it's something I want to share. I wanted to share with the world somehow, but I just didn't want to do it as an athletic trainer, specifically as an athletic trainer. And for those of you who know athletic trainers, a lot of times we're you're on the sidelines at high school games, and you're almost twiddling your thumbs waiting for someone to get injured. Otherwise, there's not a ton to do, and you can work your way up. Obviously, I mean, there's athletic trainers at every level: D1 sports, professional sports. Um, but it's just it's such a long career path, such a long road to earn your way up to the jobs that I would have wanted. And I saw a different path on the business side because, again, I think growing up in that household, it showed me that, hey, I can be entrepreneurial. I could create something on my own. I don't have to go. Um, I don't have to spend the next 10, 15 years, in junior level positions as an athletic trainer to finally become that lead trainer at a major program. There's other ways for me to carve out a niche in my career.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so yeah, it just kind of took me down a totally different path. And there's a good 8 years, 9 years between that decision and before I got into actually what I'm doing now. But all of it was learning lessons along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. The athletic training field fascinates me. Like, I have no interest in being the athletic trainer for an athletic department or a program or anything like that. Like, I'd love like more my interest is more so like I pop in, maybe teach a seminar, maybe go through a couple things, a couple concepts. But from my understanding of it, and granted, my understanding of it is a little limited, but you also travel with the team. You're away from home a lot. You're working longer hours, and it's a bit. I'm a lot like you, where we have that entrepreneurial spirit. So there's a little bit of me that's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to work 9 hours a day 5, 6
Yeah.
days a week. Like, granted, the irony of that is that with what we do and kind of the path we've chosen, we end up sometimes working like 15 hours in a day, you know? But it's a much more there's much more of that, like, I'm in control of this vision and machine, and, um, it
100%.
it kinda makes it a little bit more worth it most of the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think what I didn't like was I was an insurance policy, and there's value to having an athletic trainer as part of a program. I mean, you're there to be that first aid. So you're the first responder to an injury on field, on court, wherever you are, and you're there for rehab. But in between, there's so much downtime, and there's so much knowledge that we obtain to be able to handle our job. It felt wasted. A lot of it felt wasted to me. Now, granted, there's people who love their career, and I don't want to speak bad. I still have some friends who, were in that program with me, and they've moved their way up. They've consistently been working their way up in the athletic training world. There's been ones to been in the NCAA Final Four with their teams, and it's exciting. Like that could be really exciting, but I lost interest in it, and I wanted to find another way for me to use this information.
Oh, yeah, and I think you've chosen a great path. Um,
Appreciate that.
the thing that I find the other thing I find fascinating is, like, and then again, this is not to diminish anyone's skill set, but when you watch any major sporting league these days versus when you watched them 20 years ago, it's like we've made all these advances in recovery, all these advancements in training. We know so much more now about the body than we did, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and you have hamstring injury after hamstring injury, you got ankle injury, you got, hip stuff going
Hmm.
on. Obviously, some of the freak injuries, aren't really going to apply to that, but I'll sit there watching an NFL game and I'm just watching it and I'm like, this player last year sprained his ankle a bunch of times. And now we're in a new season and bam, he's done it again. Like, what does your off season look like? Like, what kind of protocols are you guys running? Is this not a focus?
Yeah.
And I work in a gym now where we kind of have a basketball camp going on, in addition to like a fitness center. And like we'll see athletes come in and you can just see like the joint, instability and all this stuff. And I'm like, what, like, it makes me like question like what is actually going on there. And it's something that's wild.
It is, and I think in the professional realm, and I know bits and pieces of it. I'm not very well connected to professional athletes, but you Probably know the ones who take care of their bodies because they're the ones not getting hurt and the ones having longer careers. You know, you look at someone like LeBron James, he spends over $1 million a year on himself, and I don't mean like on stuff, I mean on his body. The what he does on a daily basis, weekly basis, what he does for nutrition. He has a full-time athletic trainer, literally someone with an athletic training degree, same as me, as his like personal assistant. They create his workout plan in the season, in the off season. He literally has a full-time athletic trainer at his disposal. Great guy to listen to, actually. He's done some podcasts before. I've heard him on podcasts. He's really interesting. But that's his number one job is I work for LeBron James. I keep him healthy. And that's why you see guys like that who are having longer careers because they're not abusing their bodies. It's what we talked about earlier. It's knowing how your body functions and knowing that this is my tool, especially if you're in sports. This is the tool that allows me to do my craft. I need to take care of it, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep it working.
Yeah. Athlete spending on, like, recovery is wild, and I think probably the 2 biggest ones that stick out are gonna be LeBron and Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Tom Brady's got, what's his name? Alex Guerrero,
Hmm.
and they started TB12. He's got this whole method, like, completely, like, based around him and his pliability, his mobility, being able to, like, move, stay healthy.
Hmm.
Nutrition is locked in. And those are the guys you see, like, obviously Brady played till he was like 74, and LeBron is well on his way
Yeah.
to probably playing past 40, depending, what his son decides to do. And it always makes me chuckle a little bit. Right. So, obviously in the fitness industry, we it's somewhat of a sales job at times.
Of course.
And you talk to the everyday person, which, we would refer to as a gen population person. And they're like, "Oh, no, I don't need a trainer." And it's like, have you been paying attention to, like, anything that happens on Earth? Like,
Right.
as especially if you just take athletes, for example, you're a kid, say you're like this freak athlete in AAU sports, and you're like, "Wow, this kid is gifted," right? Your first thought immediately is, I need to pair this guy with a coach that's gonna get the best out of him, and then he gets to high school, and you
Exactly.
got depending where your school is, you got people, and then at every level that you go up, every single person has a coach.
Hmm.
Right, the think of
Yeah.
every Olympic athlete, you're gonna have a coach and a trainer and a nutritionist there by your side. They're gonna have recovery protocols and practices, and it's like, are you better than they are necessarily? Like, what's going on there? You know what I mean? And it's just that thought process kind of, like, leaves us, I think, a little too soon, whereas, like, everyone can benefit from a coach. Other coaches could benefit from coaches. Even, like you just named, arguably, which might trigger some people, the best basketball player to ever have lived has a coach full time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a crazy thought.
And I think it's a value proposition type of question. At the end of the day, it's what does that person value? Because I think in a lot of cases, that same person who might think, "Oh, I don't need a personal trainer to do this. I could figure it out." Um, Maybe the same person who in their work is working with a life coach or a business coach, or is working with or wants the right type of boss because my boss or my supervisor and I work really well together, so that's maximizing my ability to work within this company. And you'll hear that same person talk about those types of things, but now I could figure out the health stuff on my own.
Yeah.
And it's just finding the right value. It's finding the way to talk to people. I mean, it very much is a sales job. What we do in my business is very much a sales job because we have to learn about the guest and we have to learn what words are going to trigger them to make a healthy decision. And I mean but they're also being sold on unhealthy decisions all day long, whether it's bad foods or desserts at the restaurant or whatever. So I don't feel guilty about that either.
Yeah. The big thing, I think, once you make the jump, since we're on the topic of sales and stuff like that, I mean, once you learn that sales is an emotional thing, you it starts to make sense, people's decision making processes. So in terms of training, I'm from the Northeast, transplant down to the South. I'm very direct, right? So it's, what are you looking for? Here's the plan, and here's why. Um, I was doing an episode previous to this one, and we were talking about a lot of people's goals are, I either don't want to die or I want to look good naked, right? And so many people are, like, afraid to, like, kinda touch on those, when in reality, it's like, I wanna look good for my wedding, so everyone views me as attractive, or I want to appear like I'm, any you ask anyone what their ideal body type is, a lot of times they're gonna say, like, someone in, Marvel movies for guys, you're gonna have, like, supermodels for women, and there's, like, this a sexiness and attractiveness to it that a lot of times is an underlying thing, and, like, for some people, that's a reality. For other people, you might have another issue that led you there, and obviously athletes are a little different, but it's funny when you think about, like, it's like, "Hey, like, this is like a mortgage or a car payment, like, to invest in your body," and it's like, no, like, you're investing in the fact that you'll be, you know, super hot at 40 and
Yeah.
all that stuff, so you're either gonna be super hot or you're gonna be super healthy,
And
like
and exactly, and I think that's that piece that, I think mentally I've always understood what I wanna get out of health and taking care of myself, and why fitness is a huge part of my life still, not just the types of services that we sell in our centers. But, I was, I've read a couple books recently that have been very much on this topic, one by Peter Attia, one by David Sinclair, and I don't know if you're familiar with these guys. They also have podcasts. But it's really looking at longevity, looking at aging in general. And we have, if you break it down by lifespan and health span, lifespan is the number I get to. Do I live to 90 or do I live to 83? Whatever. That's your lifespan. But what's your health span? You want your health span to be as close to that lifespan as possible. If I live to 90 and I'm healthy for 89 of those years, that's a great life.
Oh, for sure.
So it's I look at all these decisions as we want to extend both. Um, you know, I'm not the type of person who wants to live forever, but I do have a goal. I want to live to 100, but I want 99% of that to be very healthy years. So if I can hit that number, and that's a reason why I make the decisions I'm making now, life's a marathon, not a sprint, that I need to keep my body healthy because I don't want to be in a hospital for 10 years or be incapacitated with all kinds of health issues or slowly progressing diseases. So I want my health span to be nearly as long as my lifespan. And that's that. I think if you could speak to people in that way and connect those dots for them, most people will agree. That's where they're going to start nodding yes. Like, yeah, I would love that. I don't want to, because you could scare people by saying, "Would you want to live to 100?" And they're like, "Oh, my aunt lived to 100, and last 15 years of her life was sitting in a bed on an oxygen tank." Well, it's like, well, okay, we could change that. That doesn't have to be the fate. The fate can be different if you take care of yourself.
Absolutely, that's so well said, and that's such a good perspective to have. It kinda lines up with that quote where, I can't remember who said it, maybe when I say it, you'll hear it, but, like, some people live till or they die at 25 and they're buried at age 75, 72, something like that.
Hmm.
And I hear it all the time. I've talked about it a lot too, as far as like age and stuff like that. And I've always viewed it as it's a state of mind that you're in. Obviously, you got to put an effort to take care of yourself. Like it's got to be a want because it is an investment. Like being in shape, being healthy, like it's going to take time out of your day. When I work with clients and things like that, and kind of put that in perspective and another angle, like what you were just talking about, like imagine like you look at us and we look at our parents, like the previous generation, and their health practices were different. And now it's like, if I can do the most that I can for myself to be the best version of myself. So that way, when I'm 80, my child doesn't have to wheel me around the house. My child doesn't have to be concerned for me constantly. And we could like the things that you unlock and experiences that you could still do as they enter an adulthood, as opposed to, you know, you're with them when they were a teenager and didn't have too much life experience, and that growth journey through life dramatically changes when you have that presented, and both people are healthy, and you are one of those people that's 90 and can still walk around pretty comfortably. You're still cognitive, barring any kind of random setback. But yeah, it's definitely a good thing to a good viewpoint, and kind of an eye-opener for a lot of folks, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, because it's not right now. It's not the norm, but I think and I don't know that it'll become the norm anytime soon. But what is becoming the norm is life expectancy is extending. Thanks to modern medications and just modern health and screening in general, which I know there's give and take there for sure, but it is extending life regardless of whether or not you like the approach. So people are living longer, and if you're living longer but not healthier, then we have a lot of then you see those issues, and that's kind of at the forefront. But if you could also be open minded enough and look at it, yes, you could live longer and be healthier. And then, living to 90, but working till you're 83, 85 isn't scary, because if I'm not in pain and my mind works and I'm looking to fill time, why wouldn't I work till I'm 85? Because that's how I look at it. I want to work I mean, I would be bored if I had nothing to do all day. So, but I want to be active and be very cognitively there so they can be highly functional in society for as long as possible.
Yeah, and fascinating point you just made. If you look at the blue zones in the world, where everyone, they have the most centennial population, so people that live past 100, all those people still work. They're still it's part of a little bit more remote in most of these cases, but they have, whole food diets. They're still working. Like you've got a guy that he's the farmer guy, he's got all the veggies, you got the other guy who's like the butcher, and everyone's like doing this, and this community is just thriving. And they don't really have to they take care of each other, of course, they're very tight knit, but like in the sense of like every person has a purpose in this village that happens to be the healthiest part, and it's a huge part of longevity and stuff like that. I actually there's also a study. I didn't look too much into it yet, but it kind of caught my interest. When you were talking about advances in modern medicine and what we can do now, that if it said if you are below the age of 50 now, chances are you're going to have a pretty good shot at getting to age 142.
That's amazing.
That's why that's a
That's
wild thought.
amazing.
Like that's
Yeah.
basically like, 30 and 40 is the new 18, 21.
Oh, good. That's how I feel. So that's perfect.
Yeah. Dude, I talked to a lot of people about this actually. Me at the age of 35, I feel better than I did when I was like 20.
Yeah,
Granted,
I'm right there with you, and you might agree to maybe this is something for you too, because we grew up pretty close in generation. I'm a little bit older than you, but like you ever look back at pictures of yourselves in like your mid 20s, and you're like, I swear I look better now. Like I look healthier. I look better now than I did like 25, 26.
oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I was showing a client. He was like, "Oh, I wish I met you when I was younger. Like we could have got, this journey started." And I looked back and I was like, "Oh, here's me at 22." And I was like, "Wow, I actually look older than I do now." Which is
Yeah.
wild. So when I head back home and I visit, old friends and things like that, and I run into people, they're always like, "What are you doing? Like, are you a vampire? Are you aging in reverse?" And so,
It's working, and that's the thing too, is some it's like biofeedback in training is so helpful, but getting that feedback too, it's like not that I think everyone's a little bit vain, but not that we want to rely on our vanity, but when you get those types of reactions from people or even yourself, like that's a motivator to stick with what you're doing.
yeah, I do get accused of lying a lot of my age. And they're like, You're 30?" Yeah, 'cause I just turned 35, and they're like, "You're 35? I thought you were like 26." Like,
I actually don't think I knew how old you were till just now, and I thought you were younger. I didn't know you were 35.
I just doxed myself. Damn, could have kept the lie going. So Matt's big into cryotherapy, so we're gonna kind of start talking a little bit about that. This is one of my favorite topics. It's a very popular topic that's trending right now in fitness. You see it portrayed in a lot of different ways, so we're going to talk a little bit about the different manners. I'm going to share a little story about my personal experience with it. Right, so I personally, I'm from the Northeast. I skied and snowboarded when I was younger. I'm used to cold temperatures, so I can kind of survive a little bit. Now that I'm a little bit older, I live in North Carolina. It's very great weather here. I actually don't like being cold very often. With me being someone that has anxiety, and I think we'll obviously talk about the objective view of cryotherapy, but I'm going to share a subjective view of something that kind of I've perceived as a little bit of the benefit. So I met Matt, my previous job, and talking about the iCryo clinic, go down, check it out, and we go into like this, almost like this chamber. Pretty badass, actually. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. When you text me earlier and you were like, "I got to find a location for it," I was half hoping that you would be in the chamber for this podcast.
I don't, I would love to be because I could use it right now, but I don't know if I don't know if the computer would like it in there.
So I tried it out. I loved it. I felt amazing. As we all know, the listeners out there, I do tend to work out a lot. I do tend to push it a little bit, and I'm kind of mean to my body sometimes. Felt great. Felt very, restored. Um, I then recently, I've, have my ins and outs of anxiety that comes with the territory of, entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And some of the usual tricks that I have weren't really working. So for whatever reason, you see it everywhere. I'm like, I've never done an ice bath. And I see like, guys in the NBA do an ice bath and whatever. I'm going to get in there. And I started out in the last couple of weeks, maybe every other day, about 3 minutes. I'll just plunge in, hang out in there. And it's kind of like watching, you see TV and you don't have a good signal and you've got the black and white snow.
Hmm.
And as soon as I sit in there after three, there's the first 30 seconds, it's like I'm going to die right now. Like everything is going to stop. It's over. And then it just goes away. Everything goes quiet. And it's just like this weird serenity, relaxation for me, that I've come to actually really enjoy. And I got that in the chamber as well. Now obviously there's a big difference between water and the chamber, which we're about to go into. So, with that being said, like talk to me about like cryo, your experience with it and like how you ended up like with that, as far as being the direction that you went.
Yeah. So my from a physical standpoint, it started from a recovery standpoint for me, and go back to what I told you I studied. So being um, major in sports medicine and working as an athletic trainer, we did the cold baths all the time with athletes. So I grew up in that atmosphere where I was putting the athletes in, and I knew physiologically what I was doing for them. I really wasn't, to be honest, experiencing it much myself, because I wasn't a high performing athlete at that time, and we kind of looked at them as different than I didn't need it, but the athletes need it. Now, obviously, that perspective has completely changed, and that hence kind of mixing two stories. That is why iCryo and our business and other businesses like ours exist now, is because there's that what used to be defined as, oh, this is a tool for elite people who are performing at an elite level, is now commonplace because there's so many benefits being associated with it, not just for those people who are trying to be elite, but for people who are just trying to be healthy in general and want to work out on and be active on a consistent basis as part of their health regimen. So from a recovery standpoint, that was kind of what got me into it. Is I'm getting older. I turned 40 this year, and but I don't stop doing my CrossFit workouts and do Murph every year on Memorial Day, and I beat my body up too. Plus, running a business is mentally and cognitively pretty taxing, and being able to do cryotherapy on a regular basis for me just really kept me performing. It kept me recovering. It kept me sleeping better. It kept my muscles from being sore for as long as they had been in the past, and it allowed me to keep my regimen. But the some of the ancillary benefits that you're getting from that, and you got to experience this firsthand, is there's a lot of cognitive benefits and there's a lot of antidepressive benefits. There's a lot of anti-anxiety benefits of doing this, and to a certain degree, it's just you're resetting your body. You're giving your body a stress purposely, in this case, because we're opting to walk into these cold chambers or cold tubs, and you're giving your body one thing to focus on, and that's actually a good thing. We get anxiety because there's so much happening all the time. There's technology going off. My boss wants me to do this, and I got to pick up the kids, and there's all this stuff bombarding our brain, and we can't figure out what their next step is, and that anxiety could set in. But when you put your body into literally a fight or flight response, which is what we're doing, you are putting your body into a fight or flight response. It doesn't care about anything else anymore. It just cares about making sure that your body's okay. So it's almost like an instant reset. My body now it's got one job: survive this, because your cells, your body, it doesn't know if you're coming out in 30 seconds, 3 minutes, or 8 minutes. So it's gonna protect itself. All those thoughts, all those anxiety feelings, all those depressive feelings, all those stresses from the rest of the day just become one thing, one physical stress that your body has to overcome right now. And that's what that's and all the benefits you get afterwards are because of that. But you put your body into that fight or flight response. That's the only thing it cares about. And that's why it creates that blank slate for you. So you get that cognitive benefit from it. From a physical side, your body is in protective mode, hyper protective mode. It's sending blood where the blood needs to go. It's sending nutrients where the nutrients need to go. And that's what's speeding up that recovery process. So you're getting that mental and physical benefit simultaneously, but it's because we just put your body into a super stressful situation, and it's got one thing to worry about. And it's that simple sometimes.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling, and uh, literally like going. And the other thing too is like when you look at a lot of people, as far as kind of maybe little wins throughout the day. Um, a lot of us go through days where there's not a lot of wins, right? Let's say you have this habit, like, to be honest with you, whether you're going in a cold tub, whether you're going in a cryo chamber, the first like 20, 30 seconds, it's not great.
Mm-mm.
And there's it's almost like this, can I do this? Like I almost want to get out. I want to get out. And you just stick with it just long enough, and then it's just like that switch, and it's like, "Oh, I do got this. I can sit in here for this amount of time," and you can stack those little wins on it. And so mentally, in addition to the obvious benefits, but mentally also, you kinda have that going for you because, like, I think for most of us, most of us haven't, you haven't fallen in a frozen lake or something like that, and, you see, like, movies and stuff like that. It's like, "Oh my god," and they fall on the ice, and the person dies, like, 10 seconds later, and that might be, like, your perception of, like, maybe what happens if you fall into water. Um, but it kinda gives you that a little bit more of that edge, that gives you that trust in your body that you are capable of doing hard things, and that's one of the reasons that I love it. So so we talk about putting yourself in fight or flight. Like, what's happening to your body and your blood in that moment that you're trying to induce?
Yeah. So what your body's going to do immediately once you get that, it's norepinephrine from your adrenal glands. So you get a norepinephrine release, which is that adrenaline rush, and simultaneously, so you're getting that, which is increasing your heart rate, but simultaneously, your body wants to protect its extremities. So um, we pull blood. Your body will actually constrict your blood vessels in all of your extremities to allow all of the warm blood to stay around your core because you want to protect your organs. All your vital organs are in your core, and then obviously your brain is in your head. So what your body will do is focus that blood flow back to the core and back to your brain, and it pulls it out of your extremities. So you're constricting those blood vessels there. And for the cryo whole body cryotherapy, the way we do it in the cold chamber with cold air is a 3 minute, maximum a 4 minute session. I know you could stay a little bit longer in the cold tubs because the water is not as cold, although it does feel a lot colder with the water.
It's true.
It's very true. But during those 3 minutes that you're on sort of that short cycle, your blood is getting hyper oxygenated because your breath rate is going to increase, your heart rate is going to increase. So you're sending around highly oxygenated blood on a short circuit, and then when you get out, all that blood disperses back to your body. So now I have this highly oxygenated blood going back out to these muscles that if you are doing it for recovery, you're sending the oxygen that's required for your body to help to start that recovery process and really kickstart that recovery process, which is why folks who are doing whole body cryotherapy or cold plunges or cold tubs are literally recovering faster. It's taking the time that you're in that delayed onset muscle soreness, that DOMS, you're shortening that period of DOMS. Um, and that norepinephrine too, and when there's norepinephrine in your blood or adrenaline in your bloodstream, your body, I can't remember the actual cofactor that's involved, but it limits another factor that creates inflammation in your body. So now you have norepinephrine flowing through your bloodstream. It's literally telling your body, don't create inflammation right now. So you're limiting the amount of inflammation that your body can create. And a lot of us are in pain just because of inflammation. It sets in, whether it's the foods we eat, the way we sit all day. There's so many reasons why inflammation will settle into our body, chronic diseases, autoimmune diseases, all these things. So if you are telling your body don't create inflammation right now just because you did a 3 minute cryo session, so many people get benefits just from that. They feel better. Their arthritis doesn't bother them as much. Their lupus flare ups aren't as bad. Um, there's just a number of autoimmune diseases that get benefits just from cutting down the inflammation in your body. And then the after effect is the really important part for a lot of folks as well. So when you're in there, you're also stimulating your vagus nerve, and that's I believe it's your 10th cranial nerve. It's right at the base of your neck. And when you stimulate that, you're getting a parasympathetic response. So that parasympathetic, that's your rest and digest. That's your calming um, part of your nervous system. So you get the adrenaline rush because, hey, I'm in this really cold environment. I need to figure out how to handle this. But you're also stimulating that vagus nerve um, to create a parasympathetic relaxation response afterwards. So when you come out of your fight or flight response, your heart rate will lower. You will get an endorphin release. So that's that feel good hormone we get when we exercise. So now you're kind of you get this euphoric feeling. Your body's going to go into a rest and digest response, and it's going to go fully into repair mode. It wants to repair itself. It wants to rest, and that's why you're going to get a better night's sleep when you do cold therapies. You are going to obviously recover faster, and it's a combination of all of this because there's so many nuances to all this. But if I'm limiting the inflammation in my body, I'm triggering a restful state. So I'm getting better sleep. So now I'm getting better quality sleep while my body is in recovery mode and there's more oxygen going around. I'm going to feel better the next day. And
Yep.
that's what's changing that old, whatever your ailments you might be dealing with, you're changing that cycle by doing something that literally could be 3 to 10 minutes, depending on if you're doing a cold chamber or a cold tub, and it's pretty amazing. And there's so much more to it when you look at anti-aging and longevity and just putting stressors on your body. Like if we just look at it from that perspective, but I think in today's world, most people, what's the immediate effect I'm going to get? What's the quick hit? And these are those quick hits. You're gonna feel really good when you come out of that chamber. You are going to get a great night's sleep because you did that cold therapy session, and you're going to have less pain over time because if I do it today and my inflammation levels are here, and I do it tomorrow and I get them down to here, and I do it 2 days later and I get it down to here, you're going to start to consistently feel better and better and better. And that's actually something we're looking at introducing to our businesses, being able to do blood tests where we look at inflammatory factors so that we can literally show you that, to be able to show, because people always want that biofeedback. So to be able to show you, hey, you did this for 3 weeks, and this is where your inflammatory factors were when you started. Here's where they are now. That's because of cryotherapy. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's fascinating when you look at, like, lab work and stuff like that, and we'll touch a little bit more on what you guys do in terms of, the ability to, take blood and stuff like that. But just how many people just aren't aware of it, and it's not even something that's even, like, deemed, like, a necessity for, like, your survival in the medical community. Obviously, in some cases it is, but in a lot of cases, so the average person may have never seen, what their labs are, or where they're at inflammation wise, what's causing them, health issues. Obviously, on the nutrition side, we see that too, and you can literally find out, like, maybe you're not allergic to gluten, but maybe gluten kind of throws you off a little bit and things like that. So, um, I think, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here. Have you seen that movie, The Last Dragon? It's from the '80s,
Yes.
dude.
Love it.
So yeah, the easiest way for me to explain what it feels like when you do cryotherapy, and this my first time experiencing it was in your chamber. You come out of that thing, when Bruce Leroy, like, he's now in hero mode, he's ready to
Hmm.
fight, what's his name, Shao Kahn, and he's just glowing yellow, and he's just
Yeah.
ready to go, and, like, he's catches the bullet. That's exactly what it feels like. You just got this glow that just coming over you, and it just feels amazing.
Yes.
It's definitely an awesome feeling.
That might be the best reference I've ever heard. You're giving me reason to put a Last Dragon poster in all iCryos going forward.
Dude,
So you get the glow.
I could probably have one right here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have terrible news on what's going there, unfortunately.
Uh-oh.
I'm a Denver Broncos fan, diehard all my life. My buddy is a diehard Patriots fan. We go back and forth constantly, and every day. For some reason, we made a bet on who would have more wins, the Patriots or the Broncos, and Broncos get Russell Wilson. Yay, like, we got a veteran again, and that season turned out to be a nightmare. So the bet was I have to get a Russell Wilson custom fat head to put here with Let's Ride going
No.
on there. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty disgusting wall. And of course, since he's not very forgiving, he's going to pick, like, the Subway ad Russell Wilson and
Was there a term for how long it has to hang?
the entire football season.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So my rebuttal this year is, if we're going to make the same bet again, but if he loses, he's got to get Belichick's son with the mullet and just, like, the creepy facial expression just
That's
on
awesome.
there. I can get away with stuff like this because, I have a bachelor pad. I'm single. He's married, just had a baby. So somewhere in his house, there's going to be a creepy guy in a Patriots hoodie,
That's really
uh,
funny.
which I'm looking forward to. But random story. I digress. But yeah, Bruce Leroy, The Last Dragon. That's probably the best description of what it actually feels like to going through that. So, talking about methodology, right? So, what's the difference and benefit, right? So if I'm going at into an ice tub versus going into a cold chamber, I know you mentioned there's a difference temperature wise. Like, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and really, I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's just two different methodologies, and what is more convenient and what is more effective in terms of time is really the biggest thing. When you're putting your body into that cold state, it doesn't matter what causes it to get cold. You're going to have a similar reaction. There are some studies that'll say whole body cryotherapy in a cold chamber is more effective. I could be hit or miss, but obviously I want to believe that. That's what we offer. We don't offer the cold tubs, um, but it's because of the reaction you get happens quicker, right? I'm so cold. I'm going into something that's negative 30, negative. I'm sorry, negative 130, negative 160 degrees, and some chambers get as cold as negative 210 degrees. It's so cold so fast, your body just immediately gets into that state. But anybody who's done a cold plunge, and you included, you also know what it feels like to get into a cold tub. That also is pretty brutal, and it's really just because the water acts as a medium. The water is a conductive material, so the cold temperature now is literally through the water penetrating your skin. So it does allow it to penetrate differently, and that's why you feel the cold. The cold could take the breath out of you, even though the temperature is not as cold. It can't be below freezing because it would be ice. So even though the temperature is less, um, you get a pretty profound effect just because the water acts as a conductive medium. Whereas in the cold chamber, it's dry air, so it could be super super cooled, and it actually doesn't really knock the breath out of you. It'll get really cold really fast, and you'll feel it. But it doesn't really have that same effect as knocking the breath out of you like a cold plunge would. So in our case, really the biggest thing is the biggest difference, or at least to answer your question more specifically, is just convenience, right? I mean, is it more convenient for you to step into to change your clothes real quick, step into a chamber, and then go about your day, or is it easier for you to change your clothes, get into a cold tub that you hope the water's clean, and get out, and you got to clean it every so often, or it's really just convenience. So we look at it as, if we're going to create a retail business, a service oriented business around this, the chamber makes a lot more sense than a cold tub. I don't want to keep that thing clean.
Absolutely. Let me just, for those listening, let me just give you my experience with testing this out. I drive to the gas station. I grab about like 40, 50 pounds of ice. I live in a third floor apartment. I have to lug that all the way up the stairs. Then I have to dump it in my tub. Then I have to pour it out. Then I have to sit there and wait for like 15 minutes for my tub to fill up. For whatever reason, my spare bathroom has like a gigantic tub. So it just takes forever to fill up, which is fine. And then you sit in there and then you get out, then you got to change again. Now you have to throw away all the bags. And it's like a whole process as opposed to you show up at Matt's clinic, go in there, you're in, you're out. So definitely far more convenient. Now, if I lived in like Alaska or like northern Canada or something like that, and I had a tub outside and it just like nature kept it cold and frozen, then maybe. Um, but yeah, for me, my vote, chamber all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get that question a lot, though. And at the end of the day, I'm a believer in the therapy itself, in terms of for your health. So I tell people whatever works for you. If we're more convenient, I would love for you to be here. But if you want to buy one for your house and buy a tub and do that, that's great. But do it. Don't give up on it. Just like home gyms usually, you're heavy at it for about a week and then they die out. So it's, speaking your language, it's always good to have a place to go. When you have the place to go and the person that's going to help you, you're a lot more likely to stick with it. And that's why I believe in gyms, and that's why I believe in gyms and trainers. I would never be able to work out in my basement.
Yeah. Even it's so true. You have that accountability, but it's also I'm going to a place where like I now don't have to think about this. I'm just following the procedure that's laid out for me, and like I'm just there for the experience as opposed to being the one, pulling the strings. So, I actually had. I know you guys offer a bunch of stuff, which we'll get into. One thing specifically that I have experienced at your location is red light therapy, and that's another topic that has been popping up and the things that people are getting. So talk to me a little about that and like what it offered, what it can offer someone from a recovery standpoint.
Yeah, red light therapy is our second most popular, right behind cryotherapy in terms of services offered, and it's very close. We're like, next month it very well can be the most popular. I love red light therapy personally, and from a recovery standpoint, well, we'll just kind of talk a little bit about the science in fairly layman's terms. What red light does is it's penetrating through your skin. So the we use four different light wavelengths, and each of those wavelengths will penetrate to different depths below the surface. Um, what we've realized, or years ago, what scientists have realized is that you actually have photoreceptors inside your cells, on the mitochondria of your cells, inside the mitochondria of your cells, which are the little organelles that create ATP, which is the energy our bodies use. Well, when those photoreceptors are exposed to red light, which is penetrating that deep, when they're exposed to red light, they actually help your body absorb oxygen more freely. So when your mitochondria have more oxygen being pulled into the mitochondria, they produce ATP faster. So what is red light doing? That's what it's doing. How it's going to help you versus me versus other folks can vary based on what your bodies need. But at the end of the day, red light therapy is helping your body have more readily available ATP, which is the energy every cell in our body uses to utilize energy. So when that is the case, if I'm just working out hard and I'm struggling to recover, yes, I'm going to recover faster because now I have more energy to go around to speed up that recovery process. Um, for some folks, they get really great cognitive benefits out of it because your brain is using, I forget what the percentage is, but a vast majority of your caloric intake every day is going towards your brain just to be able to think and work and get through your day-to-day functions.
Yeah.
For people who are already healthy, already doing a lot of things right, they're going to get skin benefits because now it's okay. Well, my muscles are good, my brain's good, everything else is good. I don't have any broken bones. I'm healing. So yeah, what else can work? What else can I work on right now? Well, those people are going to get like really, their skin's going to look clearer. There's going to be less wrinkles. It's going to recover faster. I mean, you hear of red light in so many different settings now, post-surgical settings, burn units, because it helps the body. It helps the body mend wounds faster. It helps the body heal bones faster. Again, we're supplementing, or not even supplementing. We're just triggering a physiological response to allow your body to have more energy to go around to do everything that your body wants to do. So if you have an ailment, it's going to be able to focus on that. And if you don't have any ailments, then you're probably going to have more energy, higher cognitive function, and really good looking skin.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So yes, and I've tried it out personally. I felt great. My first going into it, like it almost looks like it's like a tanning bed, but like heated. Like I was like, oh no, Matt's turning me into a rotisserie chicken here. But going in that thing, that was actually really really cool. So I definitely enjoyed that. So I know you guys have a lot of other services. Like what else can you get and have access to from a recovery standpoint at iCryo?
Yeah, I think along those lines of what we just talked about, cryotherapy and red light, infrared sauna is a huge one. So I think most people understand sauna. Infrared sauna is just a different modality, a different application of the heat. So rather than heating a room with infrared saunas, what we're actually doing is heating your body. So again, using infrared light, and far infrared light carries heat. So it's further down the spectrum than our red light bed, and those waves carry heat. And what's happening is you're basically standing in front of a light generator, but that light generator is sending heat into your body. So you're warming your body quicker, and you actually don't need it to be as hot as, say, a traditional sauna, where you might sit in a traditional sauna at 20 minutes at 200 degrees. Here, you could sit in a sauna at, say, 120 to 140, because it's heating your body significantly faster than a traditional sauna would. So you're getting a lot of the same benefits, detox, vasodilation, and you're actually helping your body burn fat a little bit too. So because you're increasing your heart rate. So lots of benefits from a recovery standpoint. Lots of longevity benefits too. I mean, everything that we do, there's my short term goals and there's my long term goals. But sauna's amazing for heart health, and it's simply because while you're in there, you're just stressing. You're stressing your body to a certain degree. You're causing your blood vessels to dilate, which means your heart has to pump a little bit harder for the session for a while, for the duration of the time that you're in there. So you're putting your heart under stress. Healthy stresses are really good for the body. So long term, you're actually training your heart to be stronger. So sauna's a favorite for me from that for something that you'd want to do long term.
For sure. It's such a different feeling too than going into like a dry sauna or like a steam bath or something like that.
Yeah, I've used the sauna at your old work. Like I've used the traditional saunas, and man, sometimes they're just they're just tough to stay there long enough to get the benefits.
It's also just an odd experience. Like if you're there and it's busy, like it's like you and like four dudes in there and just hanging
Yeah,
out. Like everyone's
yeah.
sweating really.
You could come sit in ours by yourself. It's a lot more pleasant.
Yeah.
And then I think I mean, we offer. I'll go through a few more services, but a big favorite and a huge part of our business right now, and yeah, I think it's because the recognition is really starting to get out there. But IV infusion therapy has become huge in our center, and I always, and that's why we offer it. I thought it would be huge, and as a franchise, our franchisor believed it would be huge. And I mean, I think so many people are finding the benefits now and finding how they feel long term when they're doing infusions on a regular basis, and that can mean a whole variety of things because we offer such a variety of different infusions. Whether it's at the end of the day, most of what we're offering is what we call nutraceuticals. So that's they're not necessarily pharmaceuticals, although we do use some pharmaceuticals. Nutraceuticals are vitamins and minerals, combinations of vitamins and minerals that your body needs for certain reasons. So we have immunity bags, we have pre-game, like pre-athletic bags, we have athletic recovery bags, we have kind of just your general health and wellness, we have weight loss bags, and then we do things like vitamin shots for vitamin C, glutathione, B12, kind of your common things that people are. Vitamin D is a really big one. Things that people tend to be deficient in due to our diets now. So it's really beneficial to be able to get these nutrients on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a cool category. I think so. IV therapy, getting nutrients in. A lot of us, even us who are health focused and very health centric, even we miss out on lot of nutrients and stuff. Um, do you guys offer anything? And this is just random curiosity here. Do you guys offer anything as far as like, let's say I'm a little too hungover from the night before, and like I get one of these infusions. Like, am I feeling like
Oh
a
yeah.
million bucks the next day, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We have a bag that's literally called hashtag I'll never drink again. And so as you can imagine, we have some it has Zofran in it, so anti-nausea. It has a little bit of Toradol, which is a pain management medication. So those are the two pharmaceuticals that we usually use. So it's going to help with your headache. It's going to help with your nausea, and then it's loaded with your electrolytes, B vitamins, just to kind of perk you back up and get you feeling good again.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, that
Yeah,
I definitely foresee some of us needing that a little bit more, especially. I think we've been talking a lot about age and longevity. Um, that's one thing that's definitely changed. Like I cannot get after it like I could in my 20s.
it's a huge difference. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember where was I. It was like within the past week, and I was wildly hungover, and I'm like, oh my god, like I didn't think I had that much. It was maybe a couple glasses of wine. What happened to me?
Yeah, it's so funny, and if you were to apply like the training age concept to drinking, like my drinking age, I'm like 78 as far as drinking age now these days. Like we ain't we're not there anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and we just offered on the line of IV therapies. So we just started offering ozone therapy. So I don't know if you're familiar with it or any of your listeners might be familiar with
no,
it. It was new to me before I got into this industry, and it's I mean we're seeing some amazing results with some guests. And basically, what we do is we withdraw blood from your body, so about 60 cc's of blood. It's not a ton. Maybe a little more than you would do when you're getting your blood work done. But we mix it with ozone, and ozone is O3. What we breathe is O2, ozone is O3. So we mix it with O3, and it hyperoxygenates your blood. So we actually mix the blood with the O3, and then we infuse it back into your body. So you're bringing in this hyperoxygenated blood back into the body. And while we do that, we're actually running it through a UV light. And the UV light is purifying any of that blood from any bacterial infections, viral infections, fungal infections. So it's actually helping to purify the blood before we send it back into the body. So now you're getting super clean blood, highly oxygenated, running through your veins, and it's really great for autoimmune diseases. It's really great for fending off inflammation, really great for just cognitive function. And we offer multiple doses, and actually starting next month, we're going to be offering a super high dose. It's not called super high dose, just high dose compared to what we offer now.
Yeah,
um, but it's been an amazing therapy. I've been using it myself, and we have some guests that are coming in, whether it's from some folks who have maybe had long-term autoimmune diseases, some folks that have dealt with bouts of alcoholism, drug abuse, folks whose bodies are a little bit beat up, are getting tremendous results from this. They're able to think clearer. They're losing that brain fog. They're feeling more energetic, and it's been a really cool therapy to start to offer.
that's awesome. I'm definitely gonna have to hit that up.
Yes, we'll get you. Come on in.
Yeah, no, I need that ASAP. I need your mega high. I want the most dose.
But make, that's what we'll call it.
Yeah,
We'll call it the ant dose. We got
yeah. Just give me it all. Take all the blood out. If I die, I die, and then put it right back in.
it.
That's awesome. So where can people find you guys, and how can they get in touch with you guys if they want to check out your services and what you guys are bringing to the table?
Yes, we have two locations now in the Triangle. One in Raleigh, which is in North Hills. One in Cary, in Waverly Place Shopping Plaza. Best way to reach us on the socials is through Instagram. It's iCryo_triangle. We're also looking at opening new centers around the Triangle in the next probably the next 18 months. We'll have a third center, and we're looking for a third and fourth right now. So hopefully we'll get more and more convenient for folks around here. But in the meantime, if you guys have questions, want to see what we're all about, look us up on Instagram, or just Google iCryo near me. You'll find the closest location and give us a call. Our team is, we have the mentality of we want to meet you where you are. What are your needs? And how can we find the right services to help you with those needs? And we just want you to reach your goals, whatever that is. And if it's longevity, great. We're gonna talk about a good plan to get you there. And if it's just preparing for that wedding, we're gonna get you ready and looking good for that wedding as well.
That's awesome. One last thought, since on the entrepreneurial side, and I've kind of been thinking about this. I think it's unfortunate that we're not here yet, but iCryo seems like the kind of thing that should you have a fitness center is like tailor made to be built in as part of the business. Like, is that something that you guys have thought of, or something that's maybe in the future, or anything like that? Like,
Well, it's interesting you say that. So I agree, and and sometimes I find it's hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to be everything, right? Just from a service standpoint. But what I will say is, so iCryo themselves, like iCryo Corporate, we actually have a partnership with 24 Hour Fitness. So there are iCryos inside of 24 Hour Fitnesses. I think there's two or three that are open right now, and they're looking to expand. So that does exist. So you kind of have that community that's already ready for recovery. What I will say the hard part is, and this is why I think you see so many specialty services, or and niche, however you pronounce it, services, is because it really does take a lot of education to be able to talk about it.
yeah,
So it's hard to really, because if, like I said, we take the approach of really making a recommendation. And if you were to come into my center and say, hey Matt, I'm 35 years old, I'm highly active, I'm training for Spartan races, and I'm looking for some of the things that also help me long term to be healthy, really long term. I'm gonna talk to you about all of that, and I'm gonna get you on a regimen of doing cryotherapy, red light therapy, probably ozone therapy or NAD therapy, and because those are the things that are going to help you with the goals you just laid out for me. And I think it's hard to take someone that maybe your typical front desk sales associate in a gym, and also kind of have them cross over into learning our stuff and being able to talk about one versus the other. And it can certainly be done, but a lot of times there's something to be said about spreading yourself out too thin with knowledge, and being able to be hyper focused.
Yeah, that is true for sure. Uh, Maybe in the future you get a
Maybe in the future. I
maybe
certainly hope so. I mean, it's yeah, you could go back and I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time, but
go
like
for it.
you go back to the gym world and that's the world I grew up in, right? You just go back to the 80s, 30, 40 years ago, and it was 1% of the population, and they were all bodybuilders or fitness models. And like that was it. But it was predominantly male bodybuilders. That's who went to the gym. Your average person didn't even think about it. And now we live in a world where I don't know what the percentage is, but a very high percent of folks have a gym membership or going to the gym on a regular basis. So now you're seeing that natural progression. Well, now that more people are finally waking up to being active, well, what are all these trailing services that are coming along for the ride? And we're one of them. It's a great what we offer is great, but I don't think it could have existed 40 years ago because people didn't have that mentality yet. Stretch Lab couldn't exist 40 years ago. People didn't have that mentality yet. But now that more and more and more people are being active on a regular basis, it's allowing us to kind of follow suit. And yeah, I think the market's probably going to morph again in another 10 years, and gyms will look different, and med spas and eye cryos will probably look a lot different 10 years from now than they do right now.
Yeah, let's hope because I think the model could update a little bit uh, for a lot of locations. So that'd be super cool. Like if you went to a place and like the kinds of stuff that she had, just like when you watch like Top Gun Maverick, and he's going to his test, or he's about to in the beginning of the movie when he's going to do the mock test, and he's just
Yep.
running with like a mask on, like all that stuff exists and it's fairly common. It's just you kind of got to dig for it a little bit, but when we
You
get
got
to a
it.
point
Yeah.
where all the stuff is just kind of linked together and it just works, and I think that'll be a great point.
Yeah, I think you just raised up one that I just realized. I mean, I went to my fitness center, and I did a metabolic test, but I didn't even I just heard someone talking about it in the locker room, and I was like, wait a second, I could do that here? Like, oh yeah, they do the tests, and
Yep.
it's a fee, but you could do the test, and you can get your baseline numbers and know all of your training zones and your VO2 max. And I was like, oh my, like I need that. Like like my mentality, I need that. I didn't even know it was offered here.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
All right, brother. Well, it's been real. I know you got a busy day ahead of you. I will link iCryo, the website, and the socials in the description on this video. I'll also post that out when I publish the episode as well. Just want to thank you coming on, talking to us, sharing a little bit what you guys do and why it's good for everyone involved in fitness and trying to be active. And um, again, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you reaching out, and I love talking health, wellness, and anything in between. So it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.